Leah Vaughn had always thought a wedding was the day a woman said yes. Tomorrow she would say that word with a gun to her temple, and no one would ever know. 3 days, 72 hours Leah had spent locked in the master bedroom of a penthouse on the 58th floor, watching Seattle drown in rain beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city looked like a watercolor left out in the downpour. Beautiful, unreachable, alien. The door had been locked from the outside. Cole Ashford, her fiancé, son of Washington's governor, the name that made people lower their voices in the best circles, had turned the luxurious bedroom into an elegant cage. Cream silk drapes from Belgium, a king bed dressed in Italian linen, a marble bathroom with a view of the bay. Everything cost more than Leah could have earned in a decade, but a gilded cage was still a cage. The bride's exhausted before the wedding, Cole told anyone who asked why Miss Vaughn wasn't joining the celebrations. The doctor ordered complete rest. No doctor had ever been called. Leah pressed her forehead to the cold glass, watching the city lights shimmer through the curtain of rain. Her reflection stared back. Pale face, dark circles under her eyes, hair that once gleamed chestnut gold now dull and lifeless. 26 years old, too young to look this way, too young to feel this old. It had started 2 years ago when her father died. David Vaughn, quiet, honest accountant who kept books for half of Seattle's bigger firms, dropped dead of a heart attack at his desk. Leah and her younger sister Ava were left with debts their father had racked up trying to save the house after their mother's death. Cole Ashford showed up at the funeral, tall, immaculate, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He offered condolences, offered help, paid off the debts with one check. "Your father was a good man," he'd said, taking her hand. "Let me take care of you." She'd been too stunned, too terrified to ask questions. Ava was 19 in college in Portland. Someone had to pay tuition, rent, groceries. Cole was so generous, so attentive, so insistent. 6 months later, she moved into his penthouse. A year after that, he proposed in front of all his friends and partners at an exclusive waterfront restaurant. Leah couldn't say no, not with a 3-carat diamond on her finger, not in front of 200 guests raising champagne. The real Cole revealed himself slowly, drop by drop, like poison. First it was gentle suggestions. "Wear this dress, darling, it flatters you more." Then instructions. "Don't see that friend, she's a bad influence." Then orders. "You're not going to that meeting." I said no. 3 days ago, when Leah tried to call off the wedding, Cole simply locked her in the bedroom. "Tomorrow you become Mrs. Ashford," he'd said calmly, turning the key, "and no one will dare question that it was your choice." The click of the lock snapped her back to the present. Leah spun around. The door opened and Cole walked in, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. One was short, thick-set, silver at the temples, with the practiced smile of a politician, warm and fake at once. The second... Leah froze. The second man looked like lightning trapped in human form. He was tall, 5 centimeters taller than Cole, with dark hair swept back and a face carved from marble by a master who hated softness. Roman nose, razor cheekbones, lips that clearly never smiled. But the eyes were the weapon. Dark brown, almost black, cold as the bottom of the ocean. This man didn't walk into a room. He claimed it. "Leah, darling." Cole's voice dripped sugar. "Meet my partners. This is Mr. Johnson. Bring cognac," the dark-haired man said. His voice was low, velvet with a faint Italian edge. He didn't even glance at Leah when he gave the order, yet she knew instinctively it was meant for her. Cole flinched, then recovered fast. "Of course, Niccolo. Leah, would you mind? Where's your housekeeper?" Niccolo turned his head. His gaze slid over Leah the way it might slide over furniture. "The bride should be resting." "She has the night off," Cole lied. Niccolo said nothing, just looked. And in that silence was something so heavy the air seemed to thicken. "I'll get it," Leah said quickly. She walked past them to the bar in the corner of the living room, hands trembling. She wore a simple gray cardigan and jeans. Cole hadn't given her time to change. Her hair was twisted into a messy knot. Without makeup, she looked even paler, even more lost. She pulled down the bottle of Remy Martin Louis XIII, Cole's favorite, and 3 crystal glasses, set everything on a silver tray, and carried it to the coffee table where the men had settled. Cole and Johnson were murmuring about something. Niccolo sat silent, staring out at the night-soaked city. Rain hammered the glass like desperate fingers begging to be let in. Leah set the tray down. Her hands shook harder. Exhaustion, fear, or the presence of the man who sat so still he seemed part of the furniture. Dangerous furniture. One glass teetered. She reached for it too late. Crystal hit marble and exploded into 1,000 shards. The silence was deafening. "You useless idiot!" Cole exploded, leaping up. He seized her wrist so hard she cried out. His fingers dug in. She knew there would be fresh bruises tomorrow, on top of the old ones. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" "Shut up!" Cole yanked her closer, face twisted with rage. "You ruin everything, always. Maybe I should have left you and your sister on the street where you—" "Cole." One word. Just one. Spoken by Niccolo Valenti, it sounded like a verdict. Cole froze. Slowly turned his head. Niccolo rose. The movement was fluid, unhurried, yet packed with such concentrated power, Leah felt the hair on her nape rise. He took one step, then another. Mr. Johnson shrank into the sofa like he was trying to disappear. "Let her go," Niccolo said softly. "She's my fiancée. Let her go." There was no raised voice, no overt threat. Yet Cole went white and released her wrist as if it had burned him. Niccolo glanced at the shattered glass, then at Leah's wrist, already ringed with red fingerprints, and his jaw flexed, almost imperceptibly. "She cut herself," he said, though there was no blood. "I'll take care of it." It wasn't an offer. It was a fact. Cole opened his mouth, said nothing. Johnson stared into his glass like answers floated there. Niccolo took Leah's elbow, gently, almost tenderly, and steered her toward the hallway. "Bathroom?" he asked. "Second door on the right," she managed. They walked the long corridor, footsteps swallowed by thick carpet. Leah felt the warmth of his hand through her sleeve and caught the scent of his cologne. Something crisp, citrus and cedar. Expensive, restrained, like everything about him. He opened the door to the guest bath, flipped on the light and nudged her inside. Then he shut the door and turned the lock. Leah backed against the sink, pulse roaring in her ears. They were alone, locked in, with a man even Cole Ashford feared. Niccolo Valenti studied her for a long moment, assessing. Then his gaze dropped to the marks on her wrist, and something in his eyes darkened further. "David Vaughn was your father," he said. Not a question. She nodded, afraid to speak. "He was a good man," Niccolo continued quietly. "Honest, rare quality." "You knew him?" "He kept books for one of my companies, Valenti Shipping." A pause. "Your father once found a discrepancy, $50,000. He could have looked the other way. Most would have." Leah listened without breathing. "But David came to me personally, showed me the numbers, explained someone was trying to rob me." A ghost of a smile touched Niccolo's mouth but never reached his eyes. "That someone lost far more than 50,000. And your father saved my life because the thief had planned worse than theft. I don't understand why I don't leave debts unpaid, Leah." He stepped closer. Suddenly the bathroom felt tiny. "I don't forget those who helped me, and I don't allow good people to suffer for loyalty to my family." His hand lifted. Leah flinched, but he only brushed her cheek with his fingertips, shockingly gentle for a man whose stare made people freeze. "Tonight you leave here forever," he whispered. "You have my word, Valenti word." And in that moment, Leah Vaughn understood that for the first time in 2 years, she was not alone. The word Valenti. Leah had heard it before. whispered in conversations that stopped when she entered the room. Cole sometimes took calls and she caught fragments. If Valenti says, until the family decides, you don't know who you're dealing with. She'd thought it was just another powerful Seattle name. The city was full of them. Gates, Bezos, Allen, billionaires who reshaped lives with a phone call. But standing in that small bathroom, staring into Niccolo Valenti's midnight eyes, Leah understood it was something older, far more dangerous than mere money. What? What do you mean? She breathed. Niccolo dropped his hand and stepped back, giving her air. Tonight many things will happen here, he said evenly. Cole will lose pieces he can't afford to lose. He'll be too busy to worry about you. You can't just... Leah swallowed. He's the governor's son. Connections, security, people. He has nothing. Niccolo cut in. No trace of doubt. Cole Ashford is pretty wrapping around an empty box. He thinks his father's name equals power. Real power isn't a headline or a title. It's the ability to keep every promise you make. He paused. All of them. Leah heard what he left unsaid. Promises of protection, promises of retribution. My sister, she exhaled. Ava. She's in Portland at college. Cole said if I ever tried to leave, your sister is already safe, Niccolo said simply. In 1 hour, she'll be out of Portland. In 2, she'll be out of the state. Cole won't find her even if he wants to, and he won't want to. He'll have other problems. Her heart pounded so hard she heard it in her ears. Why are you doing this? My father worked for you years ago. It's not... Your father saved my life, Niccolo repeated. To a man like Cole, a life is just another asset to buy or sell. To the Valenti family, a life is a sacred debt. His eyes darkened. We always pay our debts. Footsteps in the hall. Niccolo pressed a finger to his lips. Leah stopped breathing. The steps paused outside the door. Niccolo, Cole's voice was tight. Everything all right? Cuts deeper than I thought, Niccolo answered calmly. Need to clean it properly. A beat. Leah pictured Cole on the other side, fists clenched, afraid to open the door. We've got it. Niccolo's voice dropped several degrees. Go back to Johnson, finish the contract. I'll be there in a minute. Another pause, then retreating footsteps. Niccolo turned on the cold tap, creating white noise cover, then pulled a phone from his jacket, sleek, unmarked, definitely not an iPhone, and typed fast. He tilted the screen toward her. Address? She whispered Ava's Portland apartment. He sent the message and pocketed the phone. Listen carefully, he said low. In 15 minutes, Cole gets a call. His world starts collapsing. He'll scream, threaten, run in circles. You do nothing, say nothing, stay out of his way. And then you leave with me. It sounded so simple, so final. Cole won't just let me walk out, she whispered. He'll say I ran, call security, call his father. Cole will say nothing, Niccolo interrupted, because by then he'll be begging me not to finish destroying his life. He turned to the door, then looked back. Do you trust me, Leah? She stared at him. This man she'd known 15 minutes, tied to a world she only knew from movies and headlines. A man whose glance made grown men flinch and probably made women forget how to breathe. She should have said no, should have feared him more than Cole. But when he'd touched her face, when he'd spoken of repaying her father, when he'd promised Ava would be safe, there was no lie in his eyes, only absolute certainty. Yes, she breathed. I trust you. Something flickered across his face, too fast to name. Good. Niccolo opened the door. Then we begin. They returned to the living room where Cole and Johnson were still pretending to review documents. Cole's gaze snapped to Leah, then to Niccolo. Everything okay? He asked, aiming for casual and failing. Perfect, Niccolo replied, resuming his seat. Shall we continue? The next 10 minutes crawled. The men spoke of port licenses, shipping schedules, percentages, deadlines. Leah sat on the far end of the sofa, hands folded in her lap, feeling like an actress in a play whose script she'd never seen. Niccolo sat motionless as sculpture, nodding occasionally or asking a brief question. He never hurried. He simply waited. Exactly 15 minutes later, Cole's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and the blood drained from his face. "Excuse me," he muttered, standing. "I have to take this." "Of course," Niccolo allowed. Cole stepped into the hall, but his voice carried. "What do you mean frozen? All of them. That's impossible. I spoke to the bank yesterday." His pitch climbed. "Get me Stevens on the line, now!" Johnson squirmed, avoiding Niccolo's eyes. A minute later, Cole stormed back, hands shaking as he dialed again. "Stevens? Cole Ashford. What the hell is going on with my accounts?" Longer pause. "Federal investigation? What investigation?" His voice cracked into a shout. "You can't just freeze everything without warning." The phone slipped from his fingers. Niccolo lifted his cognac and took a measured sip. Johnson stared at the floor like he could bore a hole through it. Cole stood in the middle of the room, his perfect suit suddenly rumpled, hair wild. He looked like a man who'd just discovered the ground beneath him was gone. "I need to make more calls," he mumbled. "Go ahead," Niccolo said calmly. The next half hour was a slow-motion plane crash. Each call delivered fresh disaster. Accounts locked, assets seized, partners bailing, lawyers not returning calls. Then the final blow. "What do you mean she's not in the apartment?" Cole screamed into the phone. "Find her! Tear the campus apart!" Pause. "She can't just vanish." Leah went rigid. "Ava. Check every camera. Airport, train station, everything." Cole paced like a caged animal. The penthouse door opened. 3 men in dark suits walked in without knocking. Badges glinted at their belts. "Mr. Ashford," the first said, flashing credentials, "Federal Bureau of Investigation. We have warrants to search these premises and seize all electronic devices, documents." Cole turned the color of ash. Niccolo Valenti rose, slowly, like a predator who knows the prey is ready. He crossed to the marble side table, opened a folder Leah hadn't noticed him place there, and handed it to Cole. "I think you should see this," he said quietly. Cole snatched it with shaking hands, opened it. His face went gray. This is fake," he rasped. "It can't be real." "The marriage certificate is quite real," Niccolo countered. "Issued 3 years ago in Las Vegas, signatures notarized. Bride, Leah Mae Vaughn, groom, Luca Antonio Valenti." He let the words hang. "My younger brother." The world tilted. Leah stared at Niccolo, stunned. Marriage? What marriage? She'd never been to Vegas 3 years ago, never met any Luca Valenti. "Bad business, Cole," Niccolo continued, voice edged with ice. "You've been holding the wife of a Valenti Don hostage, my brother's wife. Threatened her. Locked her up. Planned to force her to marry you." He leaned in. "You know what we do to people who touch our family?" Cole dropped to his knees. "Niccolo, please, I didn't know, I swear." But Niccolo had already turned to Leah. He extended his hand. "Time to go home, Leah," he said simply. "The family is waiting." And Leah Vaughn, who 3 days ago believed tomorrow she would become Mrs. Ashford and lose herself forever, took his hand and walked out. Behind them, Cole screamed about impossibility, rights, justice. The door closed, cutting him off, and the rain kept falling. The elevator descended so slowly, Leah counted every floor from 58 to 1 twice. Niccolo stood beside her, his hand still on her elbow, firm but not painful, as if he feared she might vanish if he let go, or that she might change her mind and run back. Leah studied her reflection in the mirrored walls, ghost pale, hair a mess, wearing the cardigan Cole called cleaning lady clothes. She looked like a shadow of herself. "I was never married to your brother," she said quietly. Niccolo watched the floor numbers without blinking. "I know." "Then why?" Cole needed a reason, Niccolo cut in. "A reason that would shut him up and keep him from ever looking for you. A marriage certificate, properly forged, properly stamped. He gave a humorless half-smile. People believe paper more than truth when the paper has the right seals. The elevator stopped. Doors slid open onto the underground garage, cold, smelling of concrete and motor oil. Niccolo guided her between rows of gleaming Mercedes, Porsches, Bentleys, to a black Range Rover in the far corner. A driver waited, tall, broad face carved from too many hard years. He nodded to Niccolo and opened the rear door. "Where's my sister?" Leah planted her feet. "You said she's safe. I need to know where." Niccolo studied her for a long moment. "In 2 hours, she'll be on Bainbridge Island," he said. "In my family's house, under protection. Call her now if you want." He offered his phone. Leah took it with shaking fingers and dialed Ava. 1 ring, 2, 3. "Hello?" Ava sounded terrified and confused. "Ava, it's me." "Leah." "Oh my God, what's happening? Men came to my apartment an hour ago, said I was in danger, that I had to leave right now. I tried calling you. Cole said you were sleeping." "Ava, listen." Leah swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm leaving Cole. For good. You can't go back to Portland. The men who took you, they're helping us. Do you understand?" Silence. "Leah, what are you talking about? What happened?" "I'll explain everything when I see you. I promise. Just trust me, okay? You're safe. I'm safe. We're both safe now." A long pause, then a soft sob. "I was so scared, Leah. I saw what Cole was doing to you these past months, watched you disappear bit by bit, and I didn't know how to help. It's over now," Leah whispered, tears finally spilling. "It's over, Aves. I swear." They talked a few more minutes. Ava was on the ferry across Puget Sound, escorted by quiet, polite men. She had only her backpack. They hadn't let her pack. "I'll buy you everything you need," Leah promised. "Clothes, makeup, anything. Just wait for me there, okay?" "Okay." Ava drew a shaky breath. "Leah, who are these people?" Leah looked at Niccolo. He stood a few paces away, giving her space, yet every molecule of his attention was on her. "Daddy's friends," she said softly. "People he once helped." "Daddy? But he—" "Later, Aves. I'll tell you everything later." They said goodbye. Leah handed the phone back, wiping tears with the heel of her hand. "Thank you," she breathed. "I don't even know how to—" "Don't thank me, Leah," Niccolo interrupted, something heavy in his voice. "I'm only settling a debt." He helped her into the warm leather seat, then slid in beside her. The door shut, sealing them off from the world. The engine purred to life. The SUV glided out of the garage into the rain-soaked night. Seattle bled watercolor lights through the downpour. Leah watched Cole's penthouse shrink and vanish behind them. She was free. For the first time in 2 years, she was free. "Where are we going?" she asked. "The ferry," Niccolo said. "Across the water to Bainbridge Island. My family's house." "Valenti?" she repeated slowly. "I've heard the name. Cole mentioned it sometimes, but he never said—" She searched for words. "Who are you?" Niccolo stared ahead, profile sharp as an ancient cameo. "My family is one of the oldest Sicilian lines on the northwest coast," he said at last. "We came in the early 1900s, started as longshoremen, built an empire. Today, Valenti Shipping moves half the cargo from Seattle to San Francisco." "So you're a businessman," Leah said, "among other things." The tone made her fall silent. She remembered how Cole had paled the moment Niccolo walked in, how Johnson tried to melt into the furniture, how Cole's entire financial life had collapsed in 15 minutes. That wasn't the kind of power money alone buys. It was older, ruthless. "You said my father kept your books," she said quietly. "Found a discrepancy." "Yes. And the man who tried to rob you lost more than money." Niccolo turned and looked at her. In the low light, his eyes were pure black. "Your father was a good man, Leah," he said softly. "He worked among people who weren't always good, but he kept his principles, honesty, loyalty, a man's word." A pause. In my world, those things are worth more than gold. Your world, she echoed. The Mafia. The word hung between them, heavy and lethal. Niccolo neither confirmed nor denied, just watched her, waiting. Leah swallowed. Every movie, every whispered story. And here he was, Don of the Valenti family, the man spoken of in hushed tones, the man who had just saved her life. I don't know how any of this works, she admitted. I don't know the rules of your world, but I know one thing. You gave me your word, and you kept it. She met his gaze. That's all I need to know. Something shifted behind his eyes, almost invisible, like a hairline crack in granite. You're brave, he said quietly, or foolish. I haven't decided. Maybe both, she admitted, and suddenly laughter bubbled up, hysterical, raw, born of shock and relief. I just found out I'm married to a man I've never met. I walked out on my fiancé with a stranger I've known 15 minutes. My sister is on her way to an island with people we don't know. The laugh broke, edged with tears. Definitely foolish. Niccolo studied her for a long beat. Then, for the first time all night, the corner of his mouth lifted, barely a smile, but real. Your father would be proud, he said simply, and Leah finally cried, really cried. All the tears she'd stored for 2 years poured out in the dark car while Seattle dissolved into rain, and Niccolo Valenti, Don of the most dangerous family on the Northwest Coast, simply sat beside her and said nothing. Sometimes silence is the kindest thing a man can give. 60 minutes. It took Cole Ashford less than an hour to understand his life was over. He stood in the wreckage of his penthouse while federal agents methodically bagged computers, phones, files. Mr. Johnson had vanished the moment the badges appeared, stood up and walked out without a word. Coward. But the worst part wasn't the agents, wasn't the frozen accounts, wasn't even Ava Vaughn's disappearance. The worst part was that Niccolo Valenti had stayed. He sat in the armchair by the window, untouched cognac in hand, watching the rain like a man enjoying a play he'd directed himself. I need to call my lawyer, Cole said, trying for steady. It came out shaky. Of course, the lead agent, a woman named Rivers, steel-eyed and graying, replied. But first we have questions. I'm not saying anything without counsel. You're right, Mr. Ashford. Agent Rivers's tone was almost kind. Though you should know we've already spoken to your banker, Mr. Stevens, and Mr. Johnson, and 3 others from your circle. Cole went colder. What did they say? Enough, she said simply. His spare phone buzzed, the one hidden under the mattress. He lunged for it. Dad, he breathed. Governor Ashford's voice could have frozen the sound. What did you do, Cole? It's a misunderstanding, I can explain. The prosecutor just called me. They're preparing charges, money laundering, fraud, forgery, and a list 2 pages long. Dad, it's Valenti. He set this up. Cole. The governor's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. You just accused Niccolo Valenti, the man I've spent 5 years trying to get a meeting with, the man whose word outweighs my office. A pause. You're not just an idiot, son. You're a dead idiot. The line went dead. Cole sank onto the sofa, phone slipping from numb fingers. This was wrong. All wrong. Yesterday he'd been the governor's golden son, successful, engaged to a beautiful woman. He'd had power. How could everything collapse so fast? Mr. Ashford, Agent Rivers said, pulling him back. We need to discuss Miss Vaughn. What about her? Where is she? Cole glanced at Niccolo, still motionless in the chair. She left. With him. With Mr. Valenti? Yes. Of her own free will? Cole opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? That he'd kept her prisoner for 3 days? Planned to force her down the aisle? Yes, he forced out. Her own free will. Rivers scribbled something. Good. She looked at Niccolo. Anything to add, Mr. Valenti? Niccolo rose, set the glass down, smoothed his cuffs, a casual gesture that somehow made Cole's skin crawl. "Miss Vaughn is my brother's wife," Niccolo said calmly. "Mr. Ashford was unaware when he proposed. Now he knows. She has returned to her family, where she belongs." He drew the same folder from his jacket and handed it to Rivers. "Marriage certificate," he explained. "Notarized, all in order." Rivers flipped through, nodded. "Understood." She turned back to Cole. "Then Miss Vaughn is no longer your concern, Mr. Ashford. You have plenty of others." Niccolo walked to the door, paused. "Cole," he said softly, and the temperature in the room seemed to plummet. "Don't look for her. Don't contact her. Don't even think her name." He stepped closer. "Because if you do, I'll know, and what happened tonight will feel like kindness." "You can't threaten me," Cole rasped. "The feds are right here." "I'm not threatening," Niccolo cut in. "I'm stating fact." He nodded to Agent Rivers. "Good evening." "Good evening, Mr. Valenti." The door closed. Cole was left with the agents, his crumbling empire, and the certainty that he had lost, not just the night, not just Leia, but a game he never even knew he was playing. And Niccolo Valenti had won without breaking a sweat. The ferry cut slowly through Puget Sound, parting the black water like a blade through silk. The rain had finally stopped, leaving only fog behind, thick, milky, wrapping everything in a shroud. Leah stood at the rail on the upper deck, breathing in the salt-heavy air. Down in the cabin, it was warm and crowded with tourists, locals, couples with kids. She couldn't stand being inside. She needed space, air, quiet. Niccolo stood beside her without speaking, just there, silent, watchful, never crowding her, never demanding words. "My dad loved the ferries," Leah said suddenly, surprising herself. "Every Sunday when I was little, he'd bring us over to the island, bought us ice cream even in winter. Mom always scolded him that we'd catch colds." She smiled through the tears, pricking her eyes. "But Dad used to say, lighthouses don't go dark just because the whole world is lost in fog. I never understood what he meant back then." "And now?" She nodded. "He was talking about hope, that even in the darkest times there's a light that shows the way home." Niccolo stared out at the fog, swallowing the sound. "Your father was a wise man," he said quietly. "He understood that in our world darkness isn't the exception, it's the rule, which is exactly why the light matters." The ferry gave a low horn as it neared the Bainbridge dock. Lights from the terminal glimmered through the mist like ghost stars. "Welcome home, Leia," Niccolo murmured. A different car waited in the lot, a muted gray SUV with blacked-out windows. Behind the wheel sat a woman in her 30s with short dark hair and a face that had seen too much to ever look surprised again. "Marta," Niccolo introduced. 20 years with the family." "Buonasera, signorina," Marta said with a faint accent. They drove inland on narrow roads flanked by century-old pines. No streetlights, only the headlights carving tunnels through the dark and the wet asphalt. The rain had started again, soft and whispering. Leah peered out the window, trying to see anything at all. Where were they? How much farther? What was waiting? "Is Ava already there?" she asked. "Yes, arrived half an hour ago." Finally, the SUV turned onto a private drive that dropped toward the water. The trees parted, revealing the sound, black, endless, whitecaps breaking on the rocky shore. And at the very edge where land met, sea stood the villa. Leah caught her breath. It wasn't what she'd expected. Not some glass and chrome billionaire monstrosity like the ones lining Seattle's waterfront. This was old world real. 3 stories of weathered gray stone under a red tile roof, wrought iron balconies, small towers at the corners. Cypresses leaned in the wind like praying monks. Warm golden light spilled from the ground floor windows. "How old is it?" she whispered. "The house?" 120. Something unreadable crossed Niccolo's face. "My great-grandfather built it when he came over from Sicily. He wanted the family to remember where we started and to always have a place to come back to. The SUV stopped at massive wooden doors. Marta got out first and opened Leah's door. "Welcome to Villa Valenti, Signorina." Leah stepped onto the wet stone, and the front door flew open. A small, round woman in a black dress and white apron stood on the threshold, gray hair in a tight bun, face mapped with wrinkles, but dark eyes bright as a girl's. "Finalmente!" she cried, throwing up her hands. "Finalmente a casa, bambina!" She rushed forward and enveloped Leah in a fierce, warm hug, the kind reserved for blood after years apart. Leah stiffened, unsure what to do. The woman was speaking Italian, calling her bambina, little girl, like they'd known each other forever. "Rosa Maria," Niccolo said gently. 45 years with us. She raised me and Luca. She's the soul of this house." Rosa Maria pulled back, holding Leah at arm's length, inspecting her face. Then she clicked her tongue. "Troppo magra, too skinny." She spun to Niccolo and let loose a torrent of rapid Italian. Niccolo answered calmly in the same language. Rosa Maria nodded, looked at Leah again, and smiled wide and warm. "Vieni, vieni." She seized Leah's hand and tugged her inside. "Your sorella is waiting, and hot cocoa, with marshmallows." Inside, the villa smelled like home. Cinnamon, vanilla, fresh bread. A wide marble-floored hall, dark wood paneling, sweeping staircase, Venetian glass chandelier. "Leah!" Ava came running from a side corridor and flung herself at her sister. 19 shoulder-length blonde hair, green eyes like their mother's, barefoot in old jeans and an oversized sweater, face bare but alive, scared and relieved all at once. The sisters clung to each other, and Leah felt the last knot of terror finally loosen. Ava was here, whole, safe. "Are you okay?" Ava pulled back. "Leah, what happened? Who are these people? Why are we here?" "Later," Leah whispered. "I'll explain everything later. The only thing that matters is we're together." Rosa Maria clapped her hands. "Adesso, kitchen, everyone." She fixed Niccolo with a stern look. "You too, Niccolo. Don't think you can escape." For the first time all night, a real smile tugged at Niccolo's mouth. "Wouldn't dare, Rosa." The kitchen was enormous. Stone hearth, copper pots hanging everywhere, a long wooden table that could seat 20. Something simmered on the stove, filling the air with tomato and basil. Rosa Maria sat them down, set giant mugs of thick hot cocoa topped with whipped cream and marshmallows in front of the sisters, then produced warm bread, cheese, olives, sun-dried tomatoes. "Mangiate, eat!" Leah couldn't remember the last time she'd been hungry. In Cole's penthouse, her throat had closed. Food turned to ash. But here, surrounded by warmth and the smell of real cooking, hunger roared to life. The bread crackled, the cheese melted on her tongue, the cocoa was sweet and perfect. Ava attacked her own plate like she hadn't eaten in days. Niccolo sat at the end. Rosa Maria set a heaping bowl of spaghetti in front of him. Simple red sauce, fresh basil, parmesan. "You didn't eat all day," she scolded. "Think I don't notice? Always forgetting yourself." "Thank you, Rosa," he said softly. They ate in comfortable silence. No tension, just the quiet of exhausted people who didn't need words. Finally, Ava set her mug down and looked at Niccolo. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. I don't know who you are or why you did this, but thank you." Niccolo inclined his head. "Your father once helped my family," he said simply. "We don't forget." "Our dad?" Ava frowned. "He was just an accountant. Numbers, tax returns." "He was a man of honor," Niccolo cut in a world where that's rare. He rose. "Rest. Rosa will show you to your rooms. Tomorrow we talk about the rest." He started to leave, but Leah called after him. "Niccolo." He turned. "What happens tomorrow?" she asked quietly. "Cole won't just let this go. His father is the governor. They have connections, money, power." "Cole has nothing left," Niccolo said. "Accounts frozen, partners gone. Federal investigation opened. A pause. And his father filed a public disavowal of his son this evening. Official. Leah went still. How did you... I told you, Leah. When a Valenti gives their word, they keep it. He met her eyes. Cole Ashford is no longer a threat to you. Ever. I made sure of it. Then he was gone, leaving Leah staring at cooling cocoa and the realization that this man had dismantled someone's entire life in a single night. For her. Because of a debt to her father. Leah, Ava whispered. Who is he, really? Leah looked at her sister. A man who keeps his word, she said softly, and right now the only person in the world we can trust. Rosa Maria clapped again. Adesso, ragazze, bed. Tomorrow is a new day. She winked. Best rooms, view of the water. When you look at the sea, troubles float away. Capiche? They climbed the wide staircase to the second floor. The hallway was lined with old oil paintings, Sicilian coastlines, harbors, people in antique dress. Rosa Maria opened the door at the far end. For you, Leah. She flicked on the light. Spacious, airy, iron bed frame, crisp white linens, wood dresser, wicker chair by the window. French doors opened onto a small balcony over the Sound. And for you, Ava, this one. The next room, almost identical but smaller, with bookshelves and a desk by the window. Grazie, Leah whispered. Thank you, Rosa Maria. The old woman hugged her again. You're home, Bambina, she murmured. Finally home. No one will hurt you here. Niccolo won't allow it. The Valenti family protects its own. Sempre. She left, closing the door softly. Leah stood alone in the quiet room. She crossed to the balcony doors, opened them. Cold salt wind hit her face, carrying the scent of kelp and open water. Far out on the horizon, a lighthouse blinked. Lighthouses don't go dark just because the whole world is lost in fog. Leah closed her eyes, and for the first time in 2 years, since her father died, since Cole walked into her life, she could finally breathe, deep, free. She was safe. At last. Leah woke to a scream, short, raw, terrified. It ricocheted down the villa's hallway and died as quickly as it was born. She bolted upright, heart hammering. Outside was still deepest night. Fog pressed against the windows like cotton. The bedside clock read 2:47 a.m. She grabbed the robe Rosa Maria had left draped over the chair and ran into the corridor. The hall lights were on. Ava's door stood wide open. Ava! Leah burst in. Ava sat rigid against the headboard, eyes huge, staring at the open balcony doors. There was a man, Ava whispered. On the balcony. I woke up and he was just standing there, watching me. Who? Leah rushed to the balcony. Empty. Only fog drifting in and silence. Footsteps thundered in the hall. Niccolo stormed in wearing only black trousers and an unbuttoned white shirt, barefoot, hair tousled. A pistol gleamed in his hand. Leah froze. First time she'd seen him armed. The metal looked cold and inevitable. What happened? He demanded. Someone was on the balcony, Leah said quickly. Ava saw him. Niccolo stepped outside, scanned the railing, crouched, ran fingers over the wet stone. Someone was here, he said low. Recently. He straightened, phone already to his ear. Marta. Perimeter sweep. Now. Less than a minute later, Marta appeared in full tactical black, weapon on her hip, 2 more armed shadows behind her. Search the grounds, Niccolo ordered. Whoever it was, bring him breathing or not. I don't care. They melted into the dark. Rosa Maria barreled in wearing a nightgown and wielding a wooden rolling pin like a club. Che cosa? What is going on? She saw Ava's white face and flew to her. Bambina, it's all right. Rosa's here. Niccolo turned to Leah. Pack, fast, you're leaving. Where? Leah asked, ice sliding under her skin. The villa has a safe. Glass shattered downstairs, then a single gunshot, loud, house shaking. Niccolo swore viciously in Italian and spun toward the hall. Rosa, stay with them, he barked and was gone. Madonna Santa. Rosa Maria whispered, gripping the rolling pin tighter. Leah pulled Ava into her arms. "It's going to be okay," she whispered, even though she didn't believe it. Downstairs, shouts, another shot, then crushing silence, then footsteps, slow, heavy, climbing the stairs. Rosa Maria planted herself in front of the girls, rolling pin raised. "Back!" she shouted. "Back, or I swear!" The door opened. A man stood in the doorway. Leah stopped breathing. It was Niccolo, and it wasn't. Same height, same dark hair, same carved features, but leaner, harder. A pale scar sliced across his left cheekbone, hair longer, tied low, and the eyes, same near black, but wild, lethal, the eyes of something that had lived too long on the edge of death. "Ciao, Rosa," he said, voice like Niccolo's but rougher, smoked. "Miss me?" "Luca," Rosa Maria breathed. The rolling pin clattered to the floor. "Madre di Dio, Luca." Behind him the real Niccolo appeared, unhurt, gun still in hand, now aimed at the man who looked like his mirror. "Lower it, Nico," the stranger said wearily. "We both know you won't shoot." "You broke into my house," Niccolo said, voice arctic. "Terrified the women. Shot Marta. She's alive, grazed arm." The man, Luca, the brother everyone thought dead, turned and looked straight at Leah. "So you're the bride." Leah couldn't speak. "Stay away from her," Niccolo warned, stepping forward. Luca gave a tired half smile. "Relax, brother. I don't touch civilians, especially not ones supposedly married to me." He cocked his head, studying Leah. "Though I don't remember the wedding. You sure I said I do, Nico?" "Shut your mouth," Niccolo snarled. Luca laughed, short, humorless. 5 years, Niccolo. 5 years you thought I was dead. I come home and you greet me with a gun and death threats." He stepped into the room. "Not exactly the reunion I pictured." Niccolo didn't lower the pistol. "Why are you here?" "Came home." "Liar." Luca sighed and leaned a shoulder against the doorframe. Behind him, men in different tactical gear, definitely not Niccolo's, filled the hallway. "Fine," Luca said. "Truth then. I need David Vaughn's archive." Silence fell like a blade. "What?" Leah whispered. Luca's gaze locked on her. "Your father didn't just keep the official books for Valenti shipping. He kept a second set. Special. Every deal, every partner, every off-the-books job the family did for 20 years. Pause. "That ledger could burn half the Italian families on the West Coast, and I'm here to take it." "Why?" Niccolo asked, voice steel. Luca straightened. Something shifted. Suddenly he looked like a soldier giving a debrief. "Because I've been working for the United States government the last 4 years. Federal program. Total anonymity. Ghost asset." A bitter twist of his mouth. "You buried an empty coffin, Nico. I was in Afghanistan, Syria, places that don't exist on maps." Niccolo went white. "You work for the feds." "For America," Luca corrected. "There's a difference. You betrayed the family." The words landed like stones. Luca flinched, just a flicker, but Leah saw the pain flash and die in his eyes. "I'm trying to save the family," he said quietly. "What you're doing, Niccolo, this war between families, blood for blood, it only ends one way. Coffins, widows, kids without fathers." He took another step. "Give me the archive. I hand it to people who can clean the ports without burning everything down. I can negotiate a deal, full immunity for the Valenti family in exchange for the information." "Immunity," Niccolo echoed. "For selling out every other family." "For a chance to survive," Luca fired back. "Or do you think the feds won't come for you eventually? They will, Nico, and then there'll be no deal left to make." Niccolo slowly lowered the gun. "Luca," he said, voice raw, "you're my brother, my blood. How could I live?" Luca cut in. "How could I choose between bleeding out in the dirt and a shot at fixing things here?" His voice cracked. "I never wanted this, Niccolo. I swear to God. But when you're gut shot and they offer you, Die a nobody or live for something bigger. He stopped. I chose to live. Forgive me for that. Rosa Maria was crying silently, hand over her mouth. Ava's grip on Leah's hand was painful, and Leah stared at the two brothers, so alike, so different, and understood she had just stepped into the heart of a war she never knew existed. A war between family and country, between blood and duty, between past and future, and her father's archive was the key to it all. I don't know where the archive is, Leah breathed, breaking the heavy silence. My father never mentioned any special ledger. After he died, I went through every paper in his office. Just regular files, tax returns, invoices. Luca turned to face her fully. Something in his stare made her take an involuntary step back. Your father was too smart to leave something like that in plain sight, he said. But he was an honest man. He wouldn't have destroyed it. He knew it was insurance, protection. He paused. He would have left it to someone he trusted. He never. You, Luca cut in. He left it to you. You just don't know it yet. Niccolo moved fast, planting himself between Leah and his brother. Enough, he said, voice low but carrying absolute authority. You've scared them enough for one night. If you want to talk business, you talk to me. Alone. Now. Luca studied his brother for a long moment, then nodded. We have 5 years to catch up on, Nico, he said. It's going to be a long conversation. He turned and walked out. His men followed like silent shadows. Niccolo lingered in the doorway. He looked back at Leah and Ava. Lock this door, he said. Don't open it for anyone except Rosa or me. His eyes settled on Rosa Maria. Stay with them. Si, certo, the old woman whispered, still wiping tears. Niccolo left. The sound of his footsteps faded down the hall. Ava spoke first. What the hell just happened? Leah sank onto the edge of the bed, legs trembling. I don't know, she admitted. I really don't. Rosa Maria sat beside her and took Leah's hand in her wrinkled one. Luca was a good boy. She said softly. Kind. Always laughing. Loved the sea, loved boats. Niccolo was the serious one, the responsible one. Primo figlio, the heir. Luca wanted to be free. She swallowed hard. 5 years ago, he joined the army. Said he wanted to serve his country, not just the family. Niccolo fought him on it. They had a terrible fight. A tear slid down her cheek. 6 months later, we got the notice. Killed on a classified op. Body never recovered. We buried an empty casket in the family plot. And he's been alive this whole time, Leah whispered. Working for the government, Ava added. Against his own blood. Rosa Maria shook her head. Not against. He said to save it. She looked at Leah. Your papa, David. He was the bridge between two worlds, between the Valentis and ordinary life. He knew secrets, but he never sold them. He kept the books clean. She squeezed Leah's hand tighter. If Luca is right and the archive exists, you have to find it first, Bambina, before anyone else does. Why? Leah asked. What's so important in it? Rosa Maria met her eyes. The truth, she said simply, and truth is the most dangerous weapon there is. Downstairs in the study that overlooked the sound, the two brothers sat across from each other for the first time in 5 years. A crystal decanter of whiskey and 2 glasses stood between them, both full, both untouched. You lost weight, Niccolo said at last. Luca gave a humorless smirk. Desert living isn't great for putting on pounds. New scar. Kabul. 2 years ago. Luca traced the pale line on his cheek. Shrapnel. Lucky it was only that. Niccolo just stared, as if trying to convince himself the man in front of him was real, and not another ghost that had haunted him for half a decade. I thought you were dead, he said, voice rough. I buried you. I stood at that grave and gave the eulogy. Mom cried so hard I was afraid she wouldn't survive it. Dad never spoke your name again, just erased you. His voice dropped. And you were alive. and you never let me know." "I couldn't," Luca replied. "Program rules, total disappearance, no contact, no trail. The program that turned you into a spy against your own family. The program that kept me breathing." Luca slammed a fist on the table. "I was dying, Niccolo, in the dirt, bleeding out, thousands of miles from home. They gave me a choice, die nameless in a mass grave or take their offer. And you chose betrayal." The word hung sharp between them. Luca leaned back, eyes closing. "You don't understand," he said wearily. "You've never seen real war. You've seen blood, yes, dark alleys, docks, closed rooms. I watched villages burn, kids crying over their parents' bodies, people dying because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time." His voice cracked. "And I realized our world, the Cosa Nostra, Omerta. It only leads one place, death, destruction. Honor," Niccolo countered. "Loyalty, protecting our own. Isolation," Luca shot back. "A war that never ends, brother killing brother, fathers burying sons, wives turned to widows." He leaned forward. "How many, Niccolo? How many funerals in the last 5 years?" Niccolo didn't answer. Something flickered across his face. "Marco Bellucci," Luca listed, "gunned down last year. Antonio Lombardi, drowned in the Sound, hands tied. Giuseppe Rossi, car bomb 2 months ago." He paused. "All ours, all family. And where are they now?" "In the ground," Niccolo whispered, "next to your empty grave." Silence wrapped them like a shroud. Luca reached for his glass first, drained it in one swallow, set it down. "David Vaughn's archive is a chance," he said. "A chance to scrub decades of filth off the family business. A chance to cut a deal with the feds. We give them the dirt on the worst players, drugs, trafficking, guns, and the Valentis walk away clean, legal, a future without coffins." "Without honor," Niccolo added. "Honor doesn't feed the family, brother. Honor doesn't keep kids safe. Honor is just a pretty word people hide behind when they're too scared to change." Luca stood and walked to the window. Dawn was beginning to bleed across the water. "The world is changing, Nico. The old rules don't work anymore. Omerta sounds noble in stories. In reality, it's just a leash." "You sound like a Fed." "I sound like someone who's seen both sides," Luca said without turning. "And I know the path we're on ends in a cliff. Sooner or later, the feds come, with warrants, evidence, an army of agents. Then there'll be no deal left." He faced his brother. "But if we move first, if we offer cooperation, we can save the family, rebirth it, give it a clean future." Niccolo stared at him for a long, unblinking moment. "And if I say no?" he asked quietly. "If I say the archive doesn't exist? That David Vaughn destroyed it before he died?" Luca sighed. "Then I'll have to find it myself," he said. "And maybe our paths never cross again, Niccolo. You stay the dawn of the old world, and he shrugged, "I stay the ghost tearing it down from the inside, on Uncle Sam's orders. You're threatening me. I'm warning you." Luca walked to the door. "You have 24 hours. Help me find the archive willingly, or I come for it with a warrant, agents, and a full search of the villa." His hand settled on the knob. "And the girl upstairs, the one who knows nothing and did nothing, ends up in the middle of a federal investigation, with everything that comes with it." Niccolo shot to his feet so fast his chair toppled. "Don't you dare touch her." "Then help me," Luca said simply. "Brother." He walked out and closed the door. Niccolo stood alone in the study as dawn painted the water gold, an impossible choice burning in front of him. Family or brother, honor or survival, past or future. He went to the window and looked out at the Sound. Far on the horizon, the lighthouse still blinked, stubborn against the coming day. And Niccolo Valenti, dawn of the oldest Sicilian family in the Pacific Northwest, for the first time in his life, had no idea what the right choice was. Morning arrived gray and cold. Fog clung to the villa so thick the trees dissolved into it. Leah stood on her balcony wrapped in a blanket, staring at the invisible water. She hadn't slept. She'd sat on the bed all night, sifting through memories of her father's final days. David Vaughn had been methodical, everything in its place, every document filed, every number checked twice, nothing left to chance. But something had shifted in the last 2 weeks of his life. She remembered him coming home late, agitated, lost in thought. He'd stayed in his office until dawn. She'd heard the printer, papers rustling. At breakfast the next morning, she'd asked, "Dad, is everything okay?" He'd smiled that smile that never reached his eyes. "Everything's fine, bear cub, just tying up old debts, keeping promises." 2 weeks later, he was dead. Heart attack. Found slumped over his desk, pen still in hand, a blank sheet of paper in front of him. The police called it tragic overwork, stress. The heart gives out. Now those words, debts, promises, felt different. What if it hadn't been natural? What if he'd known they were coming for him? What if he'd hidden the archive because it was the only way to protect his daughters? The door opened softly. Rosa Maria entered with a tray, coffee, warm croissants, orange juice. "Buongiorno, bambina," she said gently. "You didn't sleep?" "No," Leah admitted. "Niccolo didn't either." Rosa set the tray down. "He sat in the study all night, thinking. And Luca? Left at sunrise, but he'll be back." The old woman sighed. "He always comes back, even when he shouldn't." Leah took the coffee. The hot ceramic warmed her fingers. "Rosa," she began slowly, "did my father ever say anything to you? About work, documents, secrets?" Rosa sat, folded her hands in her lap. "David came to the villa sometimes, not often. Once a month, maybe 2, brought reports, talked to Niccolo and Don Marco. I made him coffee. He liked espresso with lemon zest." A sad smile. "One day, he told me, 'Rosa, if anything happens to me, look after my girls. They know nothing. They must never know. But when the time comes, Leah will remember. She has a good memory for the important things.'" Leah's heart stuttered. What did he mean? "I don't know," Rosa said honestly, "but your papa never spoke just to hear his own voice." She stood, cupped Leah's cheek. "Maybe he left you a sign, something only you would understand. A daughter always knows her father's secrets, even when she doesn't realize it." A single quiet knock. "Avanti," Rosa called. Niccolo stepped in. Black trousers, gray shirt, hair still damp from the shower, but dark shadows under his eyes. A man who hadn't rested. "Leah," he said, "we need to talk." Rosa shot him a severe look. "Dopo colazione, after breakfast. The girl eats first." "Rosa." "Dopo colazione, Niccolo Valenti," she repeated, immovable. "Or you'll answer to me, and you know what that means." Niccolo surrendered, almost smiled. "As you wish, Rosa." They went down to the dining room. Long dark wood table, paintings, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the sound. The fog was lifting, revealing lead-gray water. Ava was already there, picking at a croissant and scrolling on her tablet. She glanced up. "Good morning," she said cautiously, "or whatever's left of it." They sat. Rosa brought more coffee, scrambled eggs, bacon, fresh tomatoes fragrant with basil and garlic. They ate in silence. Niccolo touched nothing but espresso, staring out the window. Finally, he set the cup down and looked at Leah. "I need you to remember," he said without preamble, "everything your father said or did in the weeks before he died. Everywhere he went, everyone he saw." Ava spoke before Leah could. "You're looking for the archive too?" Niccolo turned to the younger sister. "I'm trying to keep you both alive," he said evenly. "Luca wasn't joking last night. He has authority, resources, men. If he decides to take it by force, I can't stop him without starting a war. A real war. Bloody." He looked back at Leah. "But if we find it first, I buy time. Time to negotiate. Time to understand what's actually in it. Time to decide how to use it to protect the family instead of destroying it. You want to use it as a weapon, Leia said quietly. I want to use it as a shield, Niccolo corrected. There's a difference. Leia set her fork down, closed her eyes, forced herself back. Last weeks, last days, Dad coming home late, leaving early, speaking little. Then one night, a week before he died, he'd come into her room holding something small. Leah, bear cub, he'd said. Remember when we used to play Captain and Lighthouse? She remembered. Their private game. He was the lost captain. She was the lighthouse guiding him home. They'd played it when she was 5, 6, 7. Of course, Dad. Remember the lighthouse code? 3 long, 2 short, 1 long? She'd nodded. Their secret signal the captain was safe. He'd kissed her forehead. You were always my lighthouse, cub, even when I got lost in the fog. A week later, he was gone. Leah opened her eyes. Niccolo was watching her tense. What? He asked. You remembered something. A game, she whispered. Captain and Lighthouse. We had a secret code. 3 long flashes, 2 short, 1 long. She met his gaze. He reminded me of it a week before he died. I didn't understand then. But now it might be the key, Niccolo finished. A combination, a password, coordinates. Ava leaned forward. But what does it open? Dad never left us safes or hidden locks. Maybe he did, Leah said slowly. We just didn't know what we were looking for. She stood so fast her chair toppled. His office, she said. After the funeral, I packed everything into boxes. They're still in our basement in Seattle. I couldn't bring myself to throw his things away. Niccolo stood too. Where's the house? Fremont, small place on a quiet street. Leah grabbed her phone. I need to go there. Now. Cole might have eyes on it, Niccolo warned. If he thinks you'll go back. Cole thinks I'm married to your brother, Leah reminded him, and that the entire Valenti family is protecting me. He won't come within a mile. Niccolo considered, then nodded. Fine. You, me, and Marta. Ava stays here with Rosa. But No. Niccolo cut Ava off, gentle but firm. 1 target is easier to protect than 2. You stay. Not negotiable. Ava pouted but didn't argue. She recognized the same steel in his eyes that Leah got when her mind was made up. Rosa Maria appeared in the doorway as if she'd sensed the shift. You're going to the city? She asked Niccolo. Yes. Be careful. She crossed him quickly. And come home whole, Niccolo. Sempre, Rosa, he promised. Always. 20 minutes later, they were in the gray SUV heading for the ferry. Leah in the back, Niccolo beside her. Marta driving, eyes constantly checking mirrors. If Luca finds out we're looking, Leah started. He already knows, Niccolo said. He has people everywhere. The question isn't if he knows. The question is whether he can stop us before we find what we're looking for. Leah looked out at the approaching city, hidden in morning mist. The place she'd grown up. The place she'd fled 3 days ago. The city that still held her father's last secret. Niccolo, she said quietly, when we find the archive, what will you do with it? Give it to Luca? He didn't answer for a long time, just stared ahead. I haven't decided, he admitted finally. For the first time in my life, Leah, I don't know the right answer. He turned to her. My brother wants to tear down the old world to build a new one. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's the only way to survive. A pause. But that old world is my family, my ancestors, my father. Everything they fought for, everything they built. How do I betray that? Sometimes, Leah said softly, betraying the past is the only way to save the future. My dad taught me that. When Mom died, he let go, sold the business he'd poured 20 years into, moved to a smaller house, started over. She swallowed. He told me, Bear cub, holding on to what was is like clinging to an anchor while the ship sinks. Sometimes you have to let go to swim. Niccolo looked at her for a long moment. "Your father was wiser than I gave him credit for," he said. The ferry horn sounded as they docked in Seattle. The city greeted them with cold rain and wind, and somewhere in that city, in a small blue house on a quiet street, an answer waited. David Vaughn's final gift to his daughters, one last chance to save two families from ruin. The house on Fremont Avenue looked exactly the same. Small, cozy blue shutters, tiny garden out front. Mom's rose bushes long dead, but the hostas still thrived by the porch. Marta parked 2 blocks away. They watched the street for 15 minutes. No tails, no suspicious cars. Just an elderly couple walking a dog. "Clear," Marta announced. "But fast. The longer we're here, the higher the risk." They walked to the house. Leah's hand shook as she slid the key, still on the old teddy bear keychain Dad gave her for her 16th birthday, into the lock. The door creaked open. Inside smelled of dust and closed rooms. She hadn't been back in almost a year. Too many memories, too much pain, furniture draped in sheets, photos on the walls, Mom, Dad, 2 little girls on a beach, watching from another lifetime. "Basement?" Niccolo reminded. Leah nodded, led them through the living room, kitchen, to the corner door, down the wooden stairs into darkness. She flipped the switch. A single bulb lit the small space. Boxes lined the walls, each neatly labeled in Dad's handwriting. Documents 2019, office books, personal. Leah went straight to the stack marked Office Misc. Opened the first box. Framed diplomas, old calendars, trinkets. "Help me," she said. They worked fast and methodical. Niccolo handled papers with the same precision he probably used checking ledgers. Marta stood at the foot of the stairs, eyes on the upper door, hand resting on the gun beneath her jacket. 20 minutes. 30. Nothing. Leah's hope began to fade. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe the code was just a dying man's nostalgia. She opened another box. Old books, worn, smelling of paper and time. One of them she knew instantly. Lighthouses of the World. Big hardcover full of photographs. Portugal to Japan. Dad read it to her every night when she was 5. They'd pick their favorites, invent stories about lost captains finding home by the light. Leah pulled it out, opened it. Tucked between pages, Bass Rock Lighthouse, Scotland, was a plain white envelope. Sealed. No writing. Her pulse roared in her ears. "Niccolo," she whispered. He was beside her in a heartbeat. "Open it," he said quietly. She tore the envelope. Inside, a single sheet folded 4 times. Dad's handwriting. Clear, left slanted. "To my daughter, my lighthouse. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I left you and Ava alone. Sorry I couldn't protect you the way I promised your mother I would. I knew working for the Valenti family would catch up with me eventually. I saw things I wasn't meant to see, recorded deals that were meant to stay buried. But I believed honesty was a shield, that if I stayed true, they'd never touch me. I was wrong. 2 weeks ago, I learned someone planned to use my records against the family and eliminate me to keep them quiet. I tried to warn Don Marco, but it was too late. The poison was already in my medication. The doctor said heart failure. I knew the truth. I hid the archive in the one place no one would ever think to look. The one place only our family knows. The place your mother asked me to scatter her ashes, and I couldn't bear to let her go. The code I reminded you of is coordinates. 3 long, 2 short, 1 long. Translate it to degrees and minutes, and you'll find the spot. Take care of yourself, Bear Cub. Take care of Ava. And if you ever meet anyone from the Valenti family, Niccolo, Luca, anyone, tell them I forgave them. For everything. I made my choice. I kept the truth alive. Now the choice is yours. Your father, who will always be proud of you. David Vaughn. Leah finished reading through tears. She clutched the letter to her chest. "They killed him," she whispered. "Poisoned him. He knew, and I didn't do anything." Niccolo gently took her shoulders. "Leah, you couldn't have known," he said softly. "Your father protected you. That was his choice." But who? She looked up at him, eyes wet. Who wanted the archive that badly? Niccolo went very still. Something dark crossed his face. I don't know, he said at last, but I will find out. I swear to you, Leah, I will. Marta came down the stairs fast. We have to go, she said tensely. Same car circled the block twice, tinted windows. Not civilian. Niccolo nodded. Took the letter from Leah, snapped photos with his phone, handed it back. Coordinates, he said. 3 long, 2 short, 1 long. In Morse, that's... No. Leah wiped her eyes. Not Morse. Our game. 3 long flashes meant 3 seconds between signals. 2 short, 2 seconds. 1 long, 1 second. She closed her eyes, picturing it. We measured distance in seconds. 3 degrees, 2 minutes, 1 second. Glass shattered upstairs. Marta! Niccolo barked. Marta was already sprinting up the stairs, gun drawn. Niccolo grabbed Leah's wrist and dragged her to the back wall, pressed a panel. It swung inward, revealing a narrow passage. In, now! Leah slipped inside, smelled earth and mold. Niccolo followed, pulled the panel shut. Absolute darkness. They stood pressed together in the cramped space, hearts hammering in sync. Heavy footsteps overhead. Several men. A voice. Male, unfamiliar, accented. Search everything. They were here, recently. Boxes overturned, cursing. Nothing, just old papers. Check the walls. There could be a safe. Leah held her breath. Niccolo's hand found hers, squeezed, steady, reassuring. An eternity passed, or a minute. Finally, the footsteps retreated. Voices faded. Niccolo waited another 5 minutes, then eased the panel open. Clear, he whispered. They emerged. The basement was trashed, boxes flung open, contents scattered. Marta sat on the stairs, pressing a bloody cloth to her shoulder, face pale but eyes sharp. Grazed me, she gritted out. I dropped one. The rest ran when they heard sirens. Someone called the cops. Niccolo knelt, checked the wound. Through and through. You'll live. He pulled his phone. Extraction. Now. 10 minutes later, another car picked them up 2 blocks away. Leah looked back at the little blue house where she'd grown up, the house where her father died, the house that was now a crime scene. Who were they? She asked. Niccolo stared straight ahead, face carved from stone. I don't know, he said. But now I know one thing. It's not just the feds hunting that archive. Someone else wants it badly enough to kill for it. How did they know we were here? Luca, Niccolo said simply. He was watching, or his people were, and someone else was watching them. Leah closed her eyes. Everything was spiraling, growing more dangerous, but she had the key now, coordinates, her father's last gift. She would find the archive, whatever it cost, for the truth, for David Vaughn's memory, for herself. The coordinates led to Whidbey Island. Niccolo decoded them fast, an old mariner's trick predating GPS. 3 degrees, 2 minutes, 1 second, a tiny cove on the island's north side. The place Mom had asked her ashes be scattered. The place they'd spent every August when the girls were small. The little beach cottage they rented. Bonfires, salt air, laughter. We went every summer, Leah said quietly, staring at the map on Niccolo's phone. From the time I was 3. Mom said time stopped there. You could just breathe. She swallowed. After she died, Dad never went back. Said it hurt too much. But she wanted her ashes scattered in that cove, under the big oak on the hill. Then that's it, Niccolo said, under the tree. They took the ferry, then narrow forested roads. Marta had been taken to a private clinic. Stitches, antibiotics. 2 of Niccolo's silent men rode with them instead. Ava stayed at the villa under Rosa's care and 4 additional guards. Niccolo wasn't taking chances. After the attack in Seattle, he'd mobilized the entire family. Patrols around the villa, eyes on every ferry, every approach road. War had started. Quiet, invisible, deadly. The cove greeted them with cold rain and wind. The water was black, whitecaps crashing. On the hill stood the oak, ancient guardian, thick trunk, Sprawling branches. Leah stepped out of the car and memories slammed into her. Mom under that tree in a white sundress, hair flying. Baby Ava playing with shells. Dad laughing as he lit the bonfire. Happiness. Whole. Unbreakable. So long ago. Leah. Nicolo's voice brought her back. Where exactly? She walked to the oak, circled the trunk. On the downhill side, roots had created a small hollow where rainwater collected. Here, she said. Mom said memories live forever under an oak's roots. The earth remembers everyone who ever touched it. One of Nicolo's men pulled a collapsible shovel and started digging, careful not to damage roots. The ground was soft. 15 minutes in, metal struck something solid. Plastic. A sealed waterproof container. The man lifted it out, brushed off dirt, handed it to Nicolo. Nicolo looked at Leah. You open it, he said. Your father left it for you. Hands shaking, Leah removed the lid. Inside, a thick black leather-bound ledger, pages filled margin to margin with her father's small, precise handwriting, and a single silver flash drive. Leah opened the first page. 15 January 2000 Valenti Shipping Archive. Confidential. David Vaughn, Chief Accountant. Columns of numbers, names, dates, deal descriptions. Everything neat, methodical, honest, the way her father had lived. Nicolo read over her shoulder. His face hardened. It's all here, he said quietly. Every transaction, every partner, every off-book job for the last 25 years. He closed his eyes. This isn't just an archive, Leah. It's a nuke. If this ever sees daylight, if the feds get it, the Valenti family is finished. Forever. And not just yours, Leah said, flipping pages. Other families, dozens of names, politicians, businessmen, judges. She looked up. Dad documented an entire network, the whole West Coast. Nicolo took the flash drive. And this? No idea. But if he kept it with the ledger... Nicolo pulled a laptop from the car, plugged in the drive. One file, video, dated 10 April, 2 weeks before David Vaughn died. He hit play. David Vaughn's face filled the screen, tired, terrified, resolute. My name is David Vaughn, Chief Accountant for Valenti Shipping. I'm recording this because I know they're going to kill me. Leah gasped. Nicolo froze. 3 days ago, I overheard a conversation between Don Marco Valenti and a man I didn't recognize. They were talking about me. Said I knew too much, that my records could destroy the family if they fell into the wrong hands. Don Marco said, take care of him. Quiet. Make it look natural. Leah covered her mouth to keep from crying out. I understand why. In our world, information is power, and I held too much for a simple bookkeeper, but I can't let the truth die with me. David leaned closer. If you're watching this, Leah, then I'm gone. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Sorry I dragged you into this world, but now the choice is yours. You can destroy the archive. Forget. Live your life. Or you can use it. Protect yourself. Protect Ava. Reveal the truth. He wiped his eyes. I believe the Valenti family isn't all bad. Nicolo Valenti is a good man, honest. He doesn't know what his father ordered. If he finds out, maybe he'll help you. Maybe he'll do the right thing. Take care of yourself, bear cub. I love you. Always have. Always will. The video ended. Silence. Only the sound of waves and wind in the oak. Leah stared at her father's frozen face, unable to process. They murdered him. On Don Marco Valenti's order, Nicolo's father. She turned slowly. Nicolo stood like a statue, skin ashen, eyes shut, fists clenched so tight the knuckles were white. Nicolo, she whispered. He opened his eyes. The pain and rage in them made her step back. My father, he rasped. My father murdered yours, ordered an honest man killed because he was afraid of the truth. A short, bitter laugh. And I had no idea. All these years I thought I was honoring his memory, carrying on his legacy, protecting the family. I was just protecting a murderer. Niccolo! He turned away, walked to the edge of the hill, stared at the gray waves crashing below. Leah approached carefully. "You didn't know," she said softly. "You're not to blame." "I should have known," he exploded, spinning back. "I'm the Dawn. Everything that happens is my responsibility. Every crime, every death, every lie." His voice broke. "Your father once saved my life, and I let him die. I didn't protect him. I didn't save him." Leah took his hand, held tight. "You saved me," she said. "You saved Ava. You kept your word. That's what matters. Not the past. Right now." She stepped closer. "My father believed in you, Niccolo. He said it on that video. He knew you'd make the right choice." Niccolo looked at her for a long time, then slowly nodded. "I know what the right choice is," he said quietly. He went back to the laptop, pulled the drive, took the ledger. "Luca wanted this archive to trade for immunity," he said. "Information for a clean slate. But it won't work. This ledger doesn't just burn the guilty, it buries the innocent too. Wives, children, people who were simply born into the wrong name." He met her eyes. "Your father was right. Truth is the most dangerous weapon of all, and I won't let it fall into anyone's hands." "What are you going to do?" He held out the ledger and the drive. "Destroy it," he said simply. "Everything. Forever. No one gets this power. Not the feds, not the families, not me." He looked at her steadily. "But it's your legacy, Leah. Your father left it to you. You decide." Leah stared at the ledger in her hands, the drive. Her father's final hello. Truth or oblivion, vengeance or forgiveness, destruction or salvation. She closed her eyes, heard his voice. "Take care of yourself, bear cub." She opened them. "Fire," she said. "Burn it all. Here, now." Niccolo nodded. One of his men produced a can of gasoline. They laid the ledger on the ground beneath the oak. Niccolo crushed the drive under his heel and tossed the pieces on top. He doused everything. Leah pulled her father's old lighter from her jacket pocket, the one he'd given her on their last birthday together. She flicked it. The flame danced, small and brave. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered, "but your war ends today." She dropped the lighter. Flames roared up, hungry and bright. The ledger caught instantly, pages curling, blackening, turning to ash. The plastic drive melted, stinking of chemicals. They watched the last archive of David Vaughn burn, watched the truth that could have ruined dozens of lives turn to smoke, watched the past make room for the future. When only ash remained, Niccolo turned to her. "No one will ever know," he said quietly. "Your father, mine. All the secrets, all the sins, gone." "Not everything," Leah countered. "We know, and that's enough to choose right." Niccolo looked at her with something new in his eyes. Respect, gratitude, maybe the beginning of something neither dared name yet. "Your father would be proud," he said, voice catching for just a second. "And mine would be in hell if he'd lived to see this day." The wind carried the last of the smoke out over the water. Ash drifted like snow and vanished beneath the waves. Leah knelt, ran her hand over the still warm earth under the oak. Here her mother should have rested. Here now rested the ashes of the life they'd all lived. A strange peace settled over her. No one could ever weaponize her father again. Not Cole, not Luca, not even Niccolo. "It's over," she whispered. "No," Niccolo said. "It's just beginning." He offered his hand. She took it and stood. Their fingers laced together, not savior and saved, but two people who had just buried the past together and had no idea what came next. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Luca," he said. "He knows we were on Whidbey. Wants to meet. Neutral ground. Midnight. You'll go?" "We'll go. Both of us." She started to protest, then stopped. She wasn't the girl locked in a penthouse anymore. She had burned the archive. She had chosen. She had the right to stand beside him. Midnight. The old pier in Elliott Bay where their great-grandfather's first ships once unloaded, now just rusted containers and flickering lamps. Luca waited alone. No backup. Long black coat, hands in pockets, the scar silver under moonlight. He looked older, exhausted. "I thought you'd bring the archive," he said by way of greeting. Niccolo stayed silent. Leah stepped forward. "We burned it." Luca stared at her, then at his brother. "You let her do that?" "I gave her the choice," Niccolo said. "She made it." Luca exhaled sharply, closed his eyes. Then it was all for nothing. 5 years, an empty coffin, Mom still setting a place for me at Sunday dinner. Nothing. "No," Niccolo said quietly, "not nothing. We learned the truth, about Dad, about what he was capable of, and we decided no one else pays for his sins. Not you, not me, not Leah." Luca opened his eyes. Tears stood in them. Leah saw it clearly for the first time. "I wanted to save the family, Nico." "And we just did," Niccolo answered. "For real. No deals, no betrayal, just letting go." The brothers looked at each other across 3 meters of empty pier. 5 years of lies and blood and silence between them. Luca took one step, another, stopped 1/2 meter away. "Forgive me," he said, voice raw. Niccolo hesitated only a second, then closed the distance and pulled his brother into a fierce hug, the kind they'd shared as kids when one fell out of a tree and the other carried him home. Luca buried his face in Niccolo's shoulder and shook. Leah turned away to give them the moment, watching moonlight on the water, the distant glow of the city. When she looked back, the brothers stood shoulder to shoulder, so alike, so different. "I'm leaving the program," Luca said, "filing paperwork tomorrow, coming home. If you'll have me." Niccolo nodded. "Home is where Rosa Maria scolds you for being too thin," he said, the corner of his mouth lifting. "She's already planning your gnocchi." Luca laughed, really laughed, for the first time in 5 years. Then he looked at Leah. "Thank you," he said simply. "You saved us all, even if you didn't mean to." Leah shrugged. "I just kept my last promise to my dad. Take care of Ava and forgive you." "I forgave." Luca nodded, turned back to his brother. "Cole Ashford," he said. "I can close the file, officially. 20 years, no parole." "Let him rot," Niccolo said, "but let it be justice, not vengeance." They shook hands, 3 people on an empty pier under the moon. Then Luca melted into the dark, and only Niccolo and Leah remained. "Where now?" she asked. He looked at her for a long time. "Home," he said. "Bainbridge. Rosa has probably baked 3 trays of tiramisu and is threatening anyone who's late." Leah smiled, really smiled, for the first time in forever. "Then let's go home." They walked to the car hand in hand. Behind them, only ash beneath an oak and water that had carried every secret away. Ahead was dawn. 3 months later. Villa Valenti basked in spring sunshine. Cypresses whispered, the sound sparkled, the terrace smelled of coffee and warm rolls. Leah sat in a wicker chair, feet on the railing, watching Ava chase Luca across the lawn with a water gun. Luca, home for good, laughed so hard he scared the gulls. Niccolo dropped into the chair beside her holding 2 espressos, set one in front of her. "Rosa says if you refuse her gnocchi again, she'll force-feed you herself." Leah laughed. "I surrendered last week." He sat, was quiet a moment. "I sold the South Docks," he said suddenly. "The ones where, you know, it's going to be a children's rehab center now, named after your dad, the David Vaughn Center." Leah's eyes stung. He would have loved that. "And," Niccolo took her hand, "I shut down every old account. Valenti shipping is 100% legitimate now. Clean, like you wanted. Like we wanted." She nodded. "And you?" she asked. "Okay with no longer being the big bad Don?" He grinned. Still the Don. Just the Don who pays taxes and sleeps at night. She laughed and leaned her head on his shoulder. On the lawn, Luca finally caught Ava, tossed her in the air. She shrieked with delight. Rosa Maria appeared on the terrace, wiping her hands on her apron. "Amore mio," she shouted. "Lunch in 5 minutes, and if Niccolo says he's not hungry, I'll drag him in by the ear." Niccolo sighed theatrically. "See what I put up with?" Leah stood, tugged him up by the hand. "Come on, let's not make Rosa mad." They walked inside, hand in hand, as if they'd always belonged that way. On Whidbey, the old oak had new leaves, beneath its roots only earth and memory, and over Puget Sound, the lighthouse still shone, the one that never goes dark, even when the whole world is lost in fog.